Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone, and we need to talk about Clippers Nuggets game 2, specifically Kawhi Leonard, because playoff Kawhi is back. And those are words I didn't know if I was ever going to say again, because he has been so just decimated by injuries in his recent career. But finally, here he is again, healthy, playing the playoff Kawhi basketball that we're used to, being one of the biggest playoff risers I've ever seen. Tonight, against the Nuggets in their game 2 win, the Clippers game 2 win, 39 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block, 15 of 19 shooting, 4-7 from 3. 90 true shooting percentage, by the way, for 39 points. One of the most efficient jump shooting games I've ever seen. And I say jump shooting because there was only one bucket he had that wasn't a jumper. He had a dunk. Outside of that, it was turnaround jumpers. It was fadeaways. It was step back shots. Almost every single one had a hand directly in his face. It just didn't matter. And this is what Kawhi can do at times. But this one in particular just felt like he was on another planet. He could have been shooting the basketball backwards, blindfolded with both hands tied behind his back. I don't even know how in that scenario he physically puts up a shot, but he would find a way to go ahead and do it and put the ball up and in. It was unreal dominance from Kawhi to go into Denver and grab this win to go ahead and even the series heading back to Intuit Dome. Kawhi is a special player, and I tweeted this out, but seeing games like this specifically, it just makes me so mad that we were robbed of so much more of this, because Kawhi Leonard, we talk a lot about how he's one of the biggest what-ifs of all time. Where would he be all time if he didn't have his career derailed by injuries? And games like this really bring that to the forefront, because you think about like 2021, with the Clippers, they go ahead, they're in the second round against the Utah Jazz, and they're playing unbelievable basketball. I mean, the last time we saw Kawhi play a game probably of this caliber in the playoffs was game 6, I think it was, in 2021 against the Dallas Mavericks. Just annihilate Dallas. I think I made a video literally calling him a robot, or he had like a robot face in the thumbnail when that game happened. They go into Utah and they win that series, but during it, Kawhi tears his ACL, of course, puts him out for the rest of that playoff run as well as next season. But like Paul George having an amazing series against the Phoenix Suns brings that to 6 games. You have to think if Kawhi played, they have a real shot of making the NBA Finals, the first time in Clippers history. And then, they go ahead and face off against the Bucks. We would have had this all-time playoff battle between Kawhi Leonard and Giannis, both at the peak of their powers in that moment. And maybe Kawhi Leonard leads the Clippers to their first championship. He gets another Finals MVP. He puts up another all-time Finals performance like we saw with him in Toronto back in 2019. His third one, and then where would we be talking about Kawhi Leonard in all-time talks? It's moments like this where we see him at his most dominant. It just makes me really sad that we didn't get to see more of that. Or back in 2022, of course, he missed the full season going into 2023. They had that first run series against the Suns, and he dealt with, I think it was a quad injury. Or maybe it was an MCL. It was one of those things. He also dealt with a quad injury as well. Coming into this season, he was beat up after last year, hardly looked like himself whatsoever against the Mavericks. He's just been so derailed by injuries. And it's genuinely hard to believe that a guy can still put on performances like this despite all those injuries. That should derail anybody's career. It, at the very minimum, should have taken Kawhi from one of the best playoff performers in the sport to like just a decent playoff performer. But no, here he is, putting up historic numbers. He joined Devin Booker as the only 2 players to ever have 39 plus points on a true shooting percentage of 90% or better in a road playoff win. It's hardly ever happened. He just joined Shaq and Kareem with 4 playoff games, I think of 35 plus points and 70% shooting or better, something along those lines. I'll have the stat. That's not stuff that any player should be able to do. Never mind a guy that's coming off injuries the way that Kawhi has. Like, there were so many people in the media, the NBA world in general, calling for Kawhi to retire after some of these injuries. And that was never me, because I was always, keeping my fingers crossed that he would come back in some way, because Kawhi Leonard is one of my favorite players ever. Specifically, that 2019 run with Toronto, one of my favorite individual playoff player runs I've ever seen. And I made a whole video about that because it's something I remember so fondly, the way that he took over and led Toronto in that dominant performance. He took a franchise that couldn't get over the hump. They got over the hump, and he proved a lot of people wrong. It was special. That is one of the greatest individual playoff runs ever, and it cemented Kawhi as this all-time playoff performer, and I wish we had gotten to see more of that throughout his career, what he could have done in 2021, what he could have done in 2022, 2023, whatever, all those years. And it was unfortunately stolen from him and NBA fans in general by all these injuries, but now here he is. So just appreciate what he's still able to do at this moment, because playoff Kawhi Leonard is back. And this is why the Clippers are so dangerous, because not only do they have James Harden, who's played really well all season tonight, worst game that he had last game, had 18 points, 7 assists, but overall was still pretty solid. You got 16 from Zubac, who has been playing at a borderline all-NBA level all season. Norman Powell, not his most efficient game, but hit some big shots down the stretch. A great defensive team here in LA as well. Like Chris Dunn really showed up defending his butt off. Ben Simmons had some solid moments. Derrick Jones Jr. was solid out there. Nick Batum still playing solid minutes. at like 47 years old. Like, this is a really good team, but specifically because they have Kawhi playing the way that he is, it feels like you can never count the Clippers out. That's why or a big reason why I picked the Clippers to win this series over Denver. Why I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, oh, the Clippers could make things interesting against the Thunder. I won't get into that, of course, because I'm a Thunder fan. I'm biased, but like, Kawhi, when you have him playing at this level, he gives you a chance against anybody. It feels like there's almost nobody on the planet that can play up to his level when he's on like this, when he's in this playoff mode. And I'm so happy we're getting to see that. I'm also, again, so upset that we didn't get to see more of it throughout his career. But for the very moment, playoff Kawhi Leonard is back. And again, I'm going to knock on wood. I'm going to cross my fingers and just hope that nothing pops up, nothing derails this, because I don't know how many more of these we're going to get where Kawhi is somewhat healthy for a playoff run. I hope it's multiple more, throughout his career. It's the rest of his career, however many more he and the Clippers have, or if he goes somewhere else, wherever he is. But it's very unknown with the way that his career has gone recently. So it's just really cool to see. It's kind of what I'm getting at here. And it was just such an unbelievably dominant performance. And it's not even just on the offensive end, it's defensively, because Kawhi has been one of the best wing defenders in the league for his entire career. But for the last few seasons, it's waned quite a bit. But it feels like right now Kawhi is not only locked in offensively, he's locked in defensively. Unlike many players we've ever seen, that's always the thing with Kawhi, is that how many players ever can be your number one option at a championship level and also be this number one lockdown defender playing at a D-point level. It's very few guys that have ever been able to do that. Kawhi is one of those guys, especially for a wing, because you see that more so with like big men. You talk about a Shaq, for example. But Kawhi is able to do that at the wing position. It just doesn't feel possible for a guy to be this good on both ends throughout his career, and especially now after everything that he's been through. And it's going to be tough for this Nuggets team to stop Kawhi if he's playing this way. For the Nuggets side of things, I mean, they had a lot of good performances, like Jamal Murray, 23 points, 9 of 17 shooting. Russ, really solid again, hit a few big threes in this one, 14 points. Michael Porter Jr., a lot better in this game, 15 points, 15 rebounds. You got 14 from Aaron Gordon. Overall, it was a pretty good performance. It was just the fact that Kawhi Leonard was unbelievable. Like, you held Norman Powell, James Harden below 50% shooting. Zubats didn't have a crazy game. I mean, he had a really good one. That's just kind of standard Zubats, though. Like, you did a pretty good job overall. I felt like it just was Kawhi Leonard. He was just the best player by far in this game. And also part of that is this is one of the sloppier playoff games, just games in general, I feel like I've ever seen Jokic play since he got to this MVP level. Had 26, 12, and 10. He had a triple-double, but 7 turnovers, and there was a huge one late in this game, which Kawhi Leonard got the steal on. You want to talk again about Kawhi Leonard. He also had a couple of just like brain farts, which you don't typically see from Jokic. He had a really bad miss to try and go ahead and win this one, or send it to overtime rather. And I mean, it was like an end of the shot clock heave that just kind of happened to get out his way, so I'm not blaming him too much for that. But yeah, he just wasn't very good in this game, and that's very rare for Nikola Jokic. But overall, outside of him, I felt like, I mean, just in general, he wasn't terrible by any means. It just wasn't up to his usual standards. But you got good play overall from most of your guys. Just Kawhi Leonard beat you. And that's happened to so many teams over time. But they're going to need to try and find a way to slow him down. And if he's in this zone, I don't know what you can physically do, especially because it's not like they have this great lockdown defender that, can just continue to play great defense and hopefully you get more stops. Like, they don't have anybody that's up to that caliber. They've got some solid guys. Aaron Gordon, he's typically had success on Kawhi Leonard. It just, like, nothing was enough tonight. And a lot of times in Kawhi's playoff career, that's been the case. But yeah, huge win for the Clippers to go ahead and tie this one up. Going back to Denver, or going back to Los Angeles from Denver, tied up 1-1. Going to be in the Intuit Dome, the first playoff game there. It should be fun. This series, I wish it could go 1,000 games, because the first 2 games have been probably the best 2 out of all the games that we've seen over these first 3 days. It's been cinema so far. So many big back and forth shots in this one. So many moments that I feel like I can't even recall, because every single possession in the fourth quarter for like the final 5 minutes felt like the biggest moment I've ever seen. I wish this series could go 1,000,000 games. Yeah, really, really fun. Shout out to Kawhi Leonard again. Shout out to the Clippers for winning this one, tying it up. Excited to see Game 3 at Intuit Dome. And while I'm here, I'll go ahead and touch on Knicks Pistons real quick. Pistons get it done. Tie the series up, going back to Detroit, 1-1, final score 194, and it was the Cade Cunningham game. Last time, he had 21 points and 21 shots. This time, 33 points, 21 shots, more efficient. Wasn't playmaking as much, was more so looking to be a scorer. Had 3 dimes, 2 steals, 12 rebounds in this one. He was boarding up. Cade was phenomenal. He is undeniably an all-NBA rising to superstar level player at this point. Going to next season, especially if the Pistons pull off this series upset, we're going to have a lot of Cade Cunningham, is he a top 10 player conversations, because he's forcing himself into those discussions. And it wasn't just him, though. Tobias Harris, another good game, a double-double. Double-double from Jalen Duren, a lot better in this one, which they needed because Isaiah Stewart was out. Dennis Schroeder, 20 points, 6 of 10 shooting, hit the big shot at the end to go ahead and ultimately give them the win. Paul Reed was really good. Everybody was good. The Pistons are not this scrappy underdog story with no chance to win. They are a serious threat in this series, and this game showed exactly why. This is now the second straight game where I feel like for a majority of the night, they outplay the Knicks. The Knicks have looked like the better team for probably one quarter so far, and that was the fourth quarter where they went on that 21-0 run. They ultimately slammed the door shut on Detroit, but for pretty much every other quarter, I would say the Pistons have been the better team, or at least they're in that conversation for having been the better team. That's not what you want to see if you're the Knicks with the first 2 games at home as the higher seed. And a big problem I had in this one was just how uninvolved Karl-Anthony Towns was. He had 0 points on 0 of 3 shooting in the second half. And it's a problem that he had no points, but it's a bigger problem that he only had 3 shot attempts. He finished with 11 on the game for 10 points. And whether that's Cat needs to be more aggressive or Tom Thibodeau needs to do a lot more to get Karl-Anthony Towns involved, I don't know what it is, but Cat cannot be sitting on 11 shot attempts at the end of a game. He can't be sitting on 3 in the second half, especially when last game, one of the big reasons why you were in the position that you weren't to ultimately win was because Cat was getting anything that he wanted. There was nobody on the Pistons that could stop him, and now Isaiah Stewart's out, and you don't prioritize getting Cat the ball. I just don't understand that. Brunson was pretty good for a majority of this game. He wasn't the most efficient, 12 of 27 shooting, but specifically hit a lot of big shots to keep them in this game in the fourth quarter because they were losing going into it. Mikal Bridges finished with 19 points as their second leading scorer, but 3 of 11 from 3. You need a lot better. 0 of 4 from OG Anunoby. They shot 10 of 35 as a team. It's not been super promising so far for the Knicks. If you're someone who picked the Pistons to upset or kind of lean that way, you're probably feeling pretty good going into game 3. If you're a Pistons fan, you should feel great. The fact that you tied it up going back to Detroit and you looked like the better team again for a majority of this series so far should be super, super promising. Need a lot more Cat in game 2. They need a lot better from their supporting guys like OG and Mikal Bridges. Overall, the Knicks have underwhelmed me, I would say, through the first 2 games. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the games from today. Let me know down below in the comments what your takeaways were. How do you feel about each of these series tied going back? Who do you have winning and why? Let me know what you thought about the Kawhi Leonard performance, because again, one of the most insane jump shooting performances I've ever seen. I appreciate y'all watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Yeah, I'll see y'all later. Real one, save back.